carry on with a bit of Kirtan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, better if you can.
Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimad Bhaktivedanta Samtam Namas. Hari Bol, Prabhu. Okay, good timing, Prabhu.
Can I use that harmonium?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? Okay. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, and you too.
Probably best sitting
Maybe I
down.
just sit on the floor.
Questions?
Cushions? Okay, cushions could work. Oh no, I think no for sitting. For sitting, yeah. Too many cushions could be dangerous.
Pick it up, I'm going to stay as well. Good.
Thank you.
Is it on the chair, on the floor?
Anyhow. You can use these, yes.
I want to sit here for a moment while I arrive. It's a lively day.
Hare Krishna, Sutapa Prabhu.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Nice to see you.
And you.
Hare Krishna. Welcome. Should I sing Radha Madhava or Hare Krishna? Or?
Closing with Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Very nice to be here with you in Manchester. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Go Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Gaura Hari Bol Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishram Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayham Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Srila Prabhupada ki.
I don't need the microphone.
Do I need the mic?
Because there are people that
Oh, it's online. Okay, sure.
So Hare Krishna everyone, thank you very much for your time to be here on this wonderful occasion. We have His Grace Sutapa Prabhu from Manor, very scholarly. It doesn't need any introduction. Very hardworking. We are very, very fortunate to be able to hear his lecture today. Prabhuji has written a number of books and is a terrific book distributor. And yet he is very, very humble. We can learn a lot from him. He had written the summary of Srimad Bhagavatam, which has been
Some
published.
copies here, yeah.
So can I show a copy of that? Wow. How many months it took for you to do this? Many years ago?
Yeah, couple of years.
Couple of years ago. The summary of entire Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes.
So there are some copies available.
Yeah,
for
today,
sale.
yeah.
Maybe our Madhav Kumar Prabhu is the appropriate person. You can hand
Sure,
over all
sure.
the books to him, and he will do a good job definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So if anybody wants a copy, definitely approach him. And let's welcome Prabhuji with three loud Haribol! 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 So you'll be speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam today.
Hare Krishna. Yes. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here. Gaur Nataraj Prabhu is very kind. I don't think so. I'm a scholar. We're all students of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And today maybe I'll try to share with you some of the things I've learned, some of the things I've heard about Srimad Bhagavatam, and maybe we'll pick an episode of the Bhagavatam that maybe is relevant to our lives. Of course, everything within these books is relevant to our life. These books that Srila Prabhupada wrote, he said, this is my greatest gift to the world, these books. And therefore, he wanted these books to be printed and distributed as widely as possible. So like that, we're trying in our own small way to distribute these books. For the last 20 days, we've been traveling around the country, meeting different people in the busy city centres of the UK. One of the Prabhujis, I forgot his name. We were in Manchester town centre the other day. What's his name? I forgot. He works in town centre. Anyway, he came with us. I think his wife just got initiated. His wife got initiated. Okay, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, he came out with us, and then so he saw it was quite an intense job to try and stop people down Market Street and give them a book. Oh, okay, all right. So you got a book. Okay, excellent. Yeah. So we've been giving out these books, and it's difficult. It takes something to get through to people, And many things, people say, well, I don't know, I can't stop, I don't have time. So you say, yeah, you don't have time. Life is unpredictable. Anything could happen. That's why I need the book. Or sometimes, you give a book and people say, I like it, but I don't have no change, I don't have change. You said, that's the problem. There's been no change in your life for the whole lifetime, no change. Therefore, this book will give you the change. So many different lines you have to use to get through to people. But actually people are looking. People are looking for something. People are questioning life. The number of people I met in the last couple of weeks who, when they're walking down the street, they look perfectly fine, they look perfectly okay, and then you stop them and talk about something a little bit deeper, and immediately it all comes out, what they're going through. Sometimes people in tears, because smiling faces, crying hearts. That's the situation of the world we're living in. So deep down, everyone is looking for something, for some answers, for some solace, for some deeper connection. So Srila Prabhupada's books, the Srimad Bhagavatam, gives us this. And therefore, actually, the Srimad Bhagavatam and these spiritual books, they're actually our constant companion through life. There was one great saint, his name was Sanatan Goswami. Hundreds of years ago, these books were not widely available. They needed to be copied by hand. So if you wanted to get a copy yourself, you'd have to get someone to copy the whole book by hand. So Sanatan Goswami was a great personality, and he wanted to have the Srimad Bhagavatam, but he didn't have a copy. Then one day he fell asleep and he had a dream. And in the dream, a small boy came to him and said, I have a gift for you. Here is the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in his dream, he received the Bhagavatam. He was elated. He was over the moon. He was besides himself with joy. And then he woke up. And he says, oh no, it was only a dream. I didn't get the book. How unfortunate I am. I thought I had this wonderful treasure. And he was lamenting. And then that very day, a boy indeed came to him and said, no, here is the Bhagavatam. And then he received the Srimad Bhagavatam in the real life. And then as he received the Srimad Bhagavatam, these wonderful books, then he made the Bhagavatam his life. And then he said a very nice prayer. Madeka bandhu mad sangin mad guru man mahadhana man nishtaraka mad bhagya madananda namostute. He prayed to the Srimad Bhagavatam and he said, Madeka bandhu, the Srimad Bhagavatam, you're my only friend. Mad sangin, Bhagavatam, you're my constant companion through life. Mad guru, the Bhagavatam, you're my guru. Man mahadhana, the Bhagavatam, you're my greatest wealth. Man nishtaraka, Bhagavatam, you're the one that lifts me up. Mad bhagya, Bhagavatam, you're the most fortunate thing I have in my life. Madananda, Bhagavatam, you give me the greatest happiness and joy. Namostute, and therefore I offer my respects to you. So like this, he said the Srimad Bhagavatam is our constant companion through life. Everything else and everyone else and everything we have in our life will change, for sure. It was like 30 years ago that I was at school, 25 years ago that I was at school, and often I go to visit my parents. I live as a monk now, nearly 18 years I've been living as a monk. So sometimes I go to visit my parents in my neighborhood. So I always pass my school. So for many years I was thinking I'll go into my school. You know, because like you go to the school you've been to 20 years ago and then all the memories come back and all that. It's a very like nice experience. So I was thinking I'll go to my school, but I never did go to my school. And then just some months ago I was driving in the neighborhood and I drove by where my school was, and the whole school had been bulldozed. And I was like, that school was a museum of memories. So many memories. All gone. So I stopped the car and I just reflected for a moment and I realized that's the nature of the world. We live in such a transitory world. The place where you stay, that will probably change. The people who surround you, they will change. The situation of life that you find yourself in always changes. Your body will change. Everything changes. But what remains your constant companion? Srimad Bhagavatam, the holy name of Krishna. That never changes. Everything else may change, but that stays the same. And therefore Sanatan Goswami says, this is our constant companion in life. So there are many episodes in the Srimad Bhagavatam that we can draw on to learn lessons about life. But one of the lessons and one of the episodes that I'll share with you today is an episode in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is a canto in which there's many, many beautiful pastimes, but one of the pastimes is the pastime that took place between a person called Daksha, Shiva, and Sati. And it's a very, very interesting pastime because maybe it's something which happens in our life regularly. Put your hands up if you have been in an argument in the last week with someone. After all, we are living in the age of Kali, quarrel and hypocrisy. People are arguing all the time. And when we argue, it creates a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, and a lot of mental noise, let's say. Now, how many of you have had an argument with a devotee in the last week? No one's going to put their hand up. Not even on Facebook. When we argue with devotees or other spiritual people, that's even worse. Because spiritual people are very dear to Krishna, and if somehow we get into arguments with each other and we offend each other, aparad, this is known as in Sanskrit, then that affects our spiritual growth in a very bad way. So this pastime is all about people who got into arguments unnecessarily. And what we can learn from this pastime is that next time you get into a conflict situation, next time the heat is rising and you feel an argument coming on, there are certain things that you can do in order to make sure you don't unnecessarily get into arguments and lose your mental equilibrium. So this pastime has very many lessons for us in this regard. So let me first begin by telling you the story of what happens. So once there was a great personality. His name was Daksha. His full name is Prajapati Daksha. Prajapati means one who is a progenitor of mankind. So in the beginning of creation, there are many Prajapatis, and these Prajapatis, their task, their service, their contribution to the world is to basically procreate. So they increase the population. So Daksha was one such personality. Now Daksha was married to someone called Sati. Sati was a very, very chaste lady, a very, very spiritual lady, and a very, very principled lady. And Sati's Daksha's daughter was Sati, and Sati was married to Shiva. Get this right. So Daksha's daughter was Sati, yeah? And Sati was married to Shiva. Okay. So Daksha, once he had started a sacrifice, he had organized a great sacrifice in which he invited many, many demigods, many, many eminent personalities in the universe. And amongst all of those personalities in the universe, Shiva and Brahma had both come to the sacrifice. So Shiva was Daksha's son-in-law, and Brahma was Daksha's father. Yeah. So as Daksha, who was the chief organizer of this great sacrifice, as he walked into the sacrificial arena, as soon as he walked in, because he was such an eminent personality, everyone stood up in respect. Because if an eminent personality would walk through the door, Haribol, everyone stand up. Then we would all stand up, of course, and we are standing up. We have great respect for you, Mataji. So everyone stood up in respect, in reverence, except for two people, Brahma and Shiva. They just stayed sitting down. So it's interesting, Daksha, of course, we know these are all great personalities, but at least in this situation we can see Daksha had some pride. Because he didn't see the hundreds and hundreds of people who stood up to respect him, but what he saw was that there were two people who didn't stand up. That's the nature of pride. When we have pride, we don't see what we have. We don't see what's been given to us, but we see what we're lacking or what hasn't been given to us. So Daksha looked around. Who are these two people who haven't stood up? So he looked at the first one, Brahma. Okay, but Brahma's my father. So he's my superior. So he doesn't have to stand up. Shiva. Shiva is my son-in-law. He's married to my daughter. Doesn't Shiva know the first point, the first principle of refined culture, that you must respect your elders? Hasn't Shiva registered even this? Immediately Daksha became very, very angry. He looked at Shiva and he said, "How have you failed to show such respect to me?" And then he began to hurl abuse at Shiva. He said, "I knew I shouldn't have allowed you to marry my daughter. You have such bad habits. You have such terrible appearance. You have such bad character. Your associates are ghosts, hobgoblins, demons. You live in crematoriums. You have ash over your body. So many defects you have. I allowed you to marry my daughter. I've made a great mistake. Actually, you are an upstart, a very terrible personality, and I curse you here and now that you will not receive any of the oblations in this sacrifice that I'm about to perform." Shiva, what he didn't realize, what Daksha didn't realize, is the reason Shiva hadn't stood up was because Shiva was in yogic trance. He was so much in consciousness of the Supreme Person that when Daksha had come in, because he was absorbed in a kind of spiritual trance, he wasn't even in external consciousness. But Daksha didn't see that. Daksha thought he was simply neglecting him. So when Daksha began to hurl all of this abuse at Shiva, Shiva, such a great personality, very tolerant, he didn't say anything back. However, Shiva's servant, Nandishvara, could not tolerate what Daksha said. So Nandishvara immediately counter-cursed Daksha. He said, how you speak such things against Shiva? Shiva is a great personality. He's a principal demigod. He has performed so many austerities. Amongst all the demigods, he is foremost. For these terrible words, Daksha, that you have targeted towards Shiva, I curse you, Daksha, that you will become ritualistic, you will lose your knowledge, and eventually your head will be decapitated and replaced with the head of a goat. You can make a film about this. As soon as Nandishvara, Shiva's servant, said that, Bhrigu, who was the very closely associated with Daksha and his associates, he could not tolerate Nandishvara's curse, so he said, I counter curse you, that Shiva and all of your associates, you will all be diverted from Vedic principles, you will lose your spirituality, and you will basically miss the essence of what life is all about. So like this, curse, counter curse, there was a whole scene of argument. And when Shiva was observing all of this, he simply stayed quiet. And as the heat was rising and all these curses were flying around, then Shiva could no longer tolerate it, and he simply left the arena. The story goes on, it goes much longer. Eventually what happened is that there was growing tension between Shiva and Daksha, but Daksha continued performing many sacrifices. And then one day Daksha was performing another sacrifice. Of course, he had not invited Shiva to any of these sacrifices because of their arguments. And one day when Daksha was performing a sacrifice, then his daughter Sati, she desired to go to that sacrifice. So Shiva said, don't go to that sacrifice. Because if you go there, then you will see that Daksha has completely disrespected me. You will see that no one will receive you properly. And if you go there and you experience this, you will become very disturbed. But Sati decided to go anyway. And when she arrived at the sacrifice, no one welcomed her, no one received her, and she saw that Shiva was not given a place or any respect in the sacrifice, and she became so angry that she actually gave up her life. Now, what this story is basically telling us is how a small misunderstanding can lead to an argument which can actually lead to a destruction of spirituality. In our life, conflict is such a big thing. People argue over small things and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it causes problems which need not have occurred in the first place. The first principle in this pastime that we learn about is that when you're in an argumentative situation, or when there's some kind of misunderstanding or conflict, the first thing you have to have is patience. When Shiva had not stood up, when Shiva had not stood up, when Daksha came in and Shiva had not stood up, Daksha had no patience. He had no patience to try to understand what's going on here. He just immediately lashed out. Someone may say, but why didn't Shiva just explain himself to Daksha? Then he could have just stopped it there. But Daksha never gave him any time. Before Shiva could even explain the situation, Daksha had already made up his mind and had already started saying so many things. So this is the first point, that when we are faced with an argumentative situation, the first thing you have to do is nothing. Just wait. They said the art of conversation is not just to say the right thing at the right time, but to leave unsaid the wrong thing at the tempting moment. So there's so many things we want to say in a difficult situation, but you just got to have some patience. Just wait. Even in the world today, they say they used to think the most successful people were the people who had the highest IQs, intelligence quotient. But what they realize now is it's not just about IQ, but it's about EQ, emotional quotient. That you can have the highest IQ, but if you don't have EQ, emotional quotient means the ability to handle your own emotions, the ability to relate to other people properly. If you don't have EQ, you can be the most intelligent person in the world, but practically you won't be able to have any prosperity in your life because you cannot handle your emotions. Because your emotions will cover your intelligence. Your emotions will block you from using your intelligence. Therefore, Krishna even says in the Bhagavad Gita, Krodhat bhavati sammoha. That when one becomes angry, they become completely deluded. Their intelligence becomes covered. So the first thing is that whenever there's an argumentative situation, patience. Second thing is this. Whenever you're in an argumentative situation, question yourself, what's the importance? You see, Daksha had become so offended by Shiva not standing up. But was it such a big thing? Was it such a big thing that Shiva had not stood up? In so many other ways, Shiva had glorified, honored, respected Daksha. It was actually just a tiny act. It was actually just some tiny thing, small thing. But Daksha made something small into a big thing. And this is often what happens in argumentative situations, that we make something very small unnecessarily big. So whenever you're in an argumentative situation, ask yourself, what's the importance of even having this argument? Once I was distributing books and then I stopped someone and he said, this has come to me at the right time, this book. Yesterday I got out of jail. So it's like, how long were you in jail for? He's like, 3 years. I was like, what did you do? He said, I was on a night out with my girlfriend and we flagged down a taxi. So, you flag down a taxi, so the taxi stopped ahead. Anyway, then they were walking up to the taxi and then another couple came. Probably they didn't even know about this. And they got into that taxi. And he just got so angry. Just for that. He got so angry that he punched the guy who had got into the taxi. And that was it. GBH, 3 years in jail. For what? For what? So sometimes we argue unnecessarily over such small things. Prabhupada told the story of the two people who were arguing. One was arguing saying, no, we should cut it with scissors. And the other one was saying, no, we should cut it with a knife. He said, no knife, no scissors, no knife. Then he got so passionate that the one who was saying the knife, he threw the person who was saying the scissors, he threw him into the ocean. And as the person in the ocean was drowning, as he was just like his head was just drowning in the ocean, he was still saying, no, scissors, scissors. And the guy's drowning. Because what happens is when we get into an argumentative situation, the ego becomes so big that even if the issue is small, because the ego has become so big, you can't let go. So there was no need. Daksha, over a small thing, he unnecessarily got into an argument. Third thing is that when we get in an argumentative situation, we should see the circumstance. You see, when Daksha came in and Shiva didn't stand up, he became offended by that. But he didn't see the circumstance, the reason why Shiva had not stood up. One reason why Shiva had not stood up was because Shiva was in yogic trance. If Daksha had maybe understood that, then maybe he would have reacted differently. So when we are faced with some kind of arguments with others, we should try to understand the situation from their point of view also. Even the famous saying says, seek first to understand and then to be understood. So we have to see what's the hidden story behind someone's activities. Why are they acting the way they are acting? If we don't see the hidden story, then we can jump to some kind of conclusion of making a judgment on them. Just like the teacher who was trying to teach the child maths and said, here's one apple, here's another apple, how many apples do you have? The child said 3. He said, no, here's one orange, here's another orange, how many oranges do you have? 2. Okay, great. Here's one apple, here's another apple, how many apples do you have? 3. Teacher's getting so frustrated until the child says, no, but I have one apple in my lunchbox also. So that's the situation, that we don't see the hidden apple, the hidden story, the hidden element in someone's life that's causing them to act the way they're acting. Sometimes people act in a certain way, but we need to see there is a situational background to their action and there's a personal background to their situation. And when we see it in context like this, then we react to it differently. So Daksha didn't see that, and therefore he was not having a wholesome picture of the situation. Another important thing when we get into an argument situation is acceptance. You see, Shiva saw that there was so much argument going on, he just walked away. He didn't get into it. He just accepted, okay, there's a misunderstanding here, whatever, I don't want to aggravate the situation further, I'll just walk away. But Daksha, he hung on. He didn't accept that, okay, whatever it is, there's a misunderstanding, let's move on. He was not willing to move on. So sometimes when there's an argument, sometimes we just need to move on, accept the situation. Sometimes we're in an argumentative situation and we know we're wrong. Has that ever happened to you? Sometimes you're having an argument with someone, it's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then the heat's rising more and more and more, and then at one point in the argument, something clicks in your mind, you know what? I'm wrong. You're like, I'm wrong, they're actually right. And then what do? You just carry on arguing, right? Because you're not willing to accept. No, okay, whatever it is. Sorry, I'm wrong. So Shiva showed there was a certain level of acceptance, but Daksha never had acceptance. So these are principles we learn. That's why the Srimad Bhagavatam is so powerful, because everything you learn in the modern world, like say for example, they do so many seminars on conflict resolution, but you can learn conflict resolution from Srimad Bhagavatam by all these pastimes, because they show you, Daksha shows you what you should not do in a situation where you might be getting into an argument. So, like this, Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very practical for us. And Srimad Bhagavatam is telling us not just about the spiritual world and not just about what lies beyond this world and the ultimate goal of life, but Srimad Bhagavatam is also telling us about how to live in this world, how to live peacefully, progressively, how to live in a way in which we can fulfill our purpose and maximize our potential. And in this way, Srimad Bhagavatam is so practical. So I can speak more, but maybe I'll take some. If there's any questions or comments on anything I've spoken so far regarding Daksha, Shiva, Sati, and arguments, conflicts, and how to deal with such situations. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask on this?
Yeah, can I ask, you know, we were saying about arguing with a devotee. What if arguing with a devotee is your partner? She's still a Vaishnavi. So sometimes that's just happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So is that still aparad, Vaishnava aparad?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, ultimately when you're living, say for example, you're living with your family are all Vaishnavas, so if you have an argument with them, is that considered Vaishnava aparad? Yes, it is. Therefore, sometimes, of course we understand that, okay, I'm not married, so I can't comment definitively on this, but from what I've heard, okay, there will be some arguments between husband and wife like that. Of course, there was one husband and wife that came to Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, and they said, Prabhupada, we're just arguing so much. So Srila Prabhupada said, okay, you're allowed to argue, but you're not allowed to shout. That's the rule. You're not allowed to shout. So they came back sometime later. So Prabhupada said, so how's it going now? They said, Prabhupada, no arguments. Because if you're not allowed to shout, it's no fun. Anyway. But yeah, so, okay, there may be some argument like that. But, okay, some small thing like that. But basically, we should try to avoid it as much as possible. You see, when you're in an argument, whether it's with your family, whether it's with other devotees in the temple, you lose mercy, you lose peace of mind, you lose relationship. You see, you may have an argument with someone, say even your own wife or whatever, and it may, for you it may be a small thing, oh, just a few comments. You'll be surprised what people remember. You may say something small, and for you it might be insignificant, and someone could hold that thought for many years. So that's the difficulty when you have an argument, that it may seem like a very small thing, okay, we patch it over and we move on. But people hold things, and therefore it's dangerous. So that's why, even with family, we must be very, very careful. With family, in the society of devotees, you see, like so much argument, even in the society of devotees, isn't it? Prabhupada said, I managed to bring the spiritual world into the material world by creating these wonderful temples which are like an oasis. But you all are so mystical that you've managed to bring the material world back into the spiritual world by having such a unnecessarily material mentality. So yeah, even with family, we have to try to be careful. You're living with devotees. Yes.
Is it on? Yeah, it just occurred to me when you were speaking then to ask, is it about power? I mean, when people argue, there must be a reason, really. And the examples that you've given, well, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, It's like father, son-in-law, maybe a hierarchical thing, or in marriages or partnerships, it can be who's in control. Maybe that's a common, is it?
Yeah. The basic driver behind arguments is pride. Where there is pride, there is argument. Because where there is pride, there is a certain expectation, there is a certain ego involved, and that drives argument. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's why, have you ever tried to have an argument with a humble person? It's not possible. You can't do it. It's just like, sometimes there's like devotee, they may do something a little bit like wrong or something, but they're very humble, but they do something wrong. And it's like, you want to be like angry at them, but you can't because they're just like too humble, It's like, can you be a bit proud so I can be angry at you? You can't. So, where there is humility, there's no question of argument. There's no question of argument. But where there is pride, even when there is no need for argument, they'll create argument. Supermarket rage, road rage, all of these things is actually so insignificant. But because there's some pride and power, as you said. So we must be very careful. Of course, we can't judge others, but we just have to judge ourselves. When we get into an argumentative situation or we feel anger rising, generally it comes from pride. Yeah.
So, Prabhu, thank you so much for wonderful instruction from Srimad Bhagavatam, very nice. So the root cause you mentioned is pride for argument, isn't it? And what is the remedy for that, if you want to share? And the other question I have is, say, sometimes, with family members, it's a little tricky. But, I agree that can be resolved amicably, peacefully. But, sometimes, because, that familiarity is there, you kind of get into the argument. But I see the point, but maybe you want to share some of, your thoughts on that. So, two questions.
You see, of course, one thing is that where there is more relationship, where there is more, naturally more interaction, more deeper connection, then there's some license because there's so much emotional investment that's been made. So it's like a different thing. So that's definitely there, But still, even then, we should be careful. We should still be careful. What's the remedy to pride? Therefore, Mahaprabhu is telling us, Tranadapi sunichena tarodapi sahishnana manina manadena kirtaniya sadahari, that one should be more tolerant than a tree, more humble than a blade of grass, ready to offer all respects to others. How do you do that? Then someone may say, how do you do that practically? I've found that the best remedy for pride is in every situation in your life, always try to be a servant. If you're speaking a class, try to do it in the mood of being a servant to the people you're speaking to. If you're cooking prasadam, do it in the mood of, like anything you're doing, in any situation, always try to take the mood of being a servant, of assisting others, of helping others to grow, of helping others to come closer to Krishna. Pride basically means the world revolves around me. That's basically what pride means. Everyone wants to be at the back of the church, in the front of the bus, and in the center of attention. There's an English saying like that. So pride means we want everything to revolve around us. So humility means that we're always thinking about others, that we're always thinking in the mood of service. So if we want to think on a practical level of how to overcome pride, on a very practical level, just become more and more of a servant. Just practically. And the good news is There's no shortage of service in the Hare Krishna movement. It's like, you may complain. There's two things there's never a shortage of in the Hare Krishna movement: prasadam and service. And instructions. So we just have to try and become a servant in every situation. Try to take that position. And then as we become a servant in every situation, then the humility will come and there's no sense of pride. I guess that's a practical thing that we can all do. Any other questions? Anyone has?
You want to ask something?
One more you want to add? Okay.
I just think of another word then from what you're saying. Yeah, because he said it's like an emotional disturbance. The person who gets angry, their emotions are out of control. And if you're the receiver, there is a very big conflict in my life, actually, or there has been, and I'm not sure it's totally resolved. It probably isn't. And so I could only, in a way, do what Shiva did and just try to walk away. Try to not arouse it. But and then maybe forgiveness, that you have to try. If you can try to forgive them, then it can maybe... So then that's maybe, like you're saying, just to get more humble.
Yeah, no, this is a very good point that you raised. That what about if we are on the receiving end of someone's anger? Yeah, like how do we deal with that? See, there's two responses, and both responses are important. One is there's a practical response, which is if we're on the receiving end of someone's anger, we may need to create some distance. We may even need to address that issue with that person to someone else. We may need to make some kind of practical solution to deal with it. So it's not that, now we're devotees and someone's directing anger towards me, I just sit here and do nothing and just take it. No, because we're not on that level. So there's a practical response. But the spiritual response has to go hand in hand with the practical response, that I don't hold any bitterness towards that person. You see, Nelson Mandela was in prison, or unfairly imprisoned or whatever. The day he came out of prison, one of our devotees went up to him and said, "Can I give you a Bhagavad Gita?" He said, "Too late, I read it already." He said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I read it in the prison. There was one person, he gave me the Bhagavad Gita in the prison." So the devotee said to him, "What did you learn from the Bhagavad Gita?" He said, "I learned from the Bhagavad Gita. The day I stepped out of prison, the Bhagavad Gita taught me that if I don't give up my anger, my bitterness, my sense of, disgust with what those people did to me, if I don't give up those things, then I may have left the prison, but I'll still be imprisoned." He got that point. So, say for example, if Gaur-Narayan is causing me some anger or whatever, is directing his anger towards me, there's a practical solution. But I don't hold it against him. I see that actually in his anger that he's directing towards me, he's suffering. He's suffering. So of course, this is very difficult, easy to say, but that's the vision we have to try and get. That Jesus said, isn't it? Hate the disease, not the diseased. Yeah, so otherwise we just walk around and we're holding so much negative feeling against all these different people who themselves are also suffering and implicated. So there's a practical response, but there's a spiritual consciousness that we have to develop to see that, yeah, people are going through what they're going through. Of course, and this is the other point that I made, that always see behind someone's anger, there's something which is driving them towards that. What is that? Try to understand that, because then you look at that person differently. Then you won't just look at them as an angry person, but you'll see, oh no, but they're going through this, but they experienced this, but in their childhood they had to deal with this, and then you get more of a picture of what's causing them, what's driving them to act like that. Because everyone has a hidden story. Therefore, the most advanced spiritualists learn to hear the unheard. Once a priest, he said to the man, I want you to go and listen to your wife. Listen to her. So he went and he sat down and he listened to his wife and everything she wanted to say. So he came back and he said, I listened to her. I learned so many things about her. The priest said, now I want you to go back and listen to everything that she doesn't tell you. Now I want you to go back and hear the unheard. And then you'll understand her even more. Because people, they only communicate to you some little bit of what they're going through. But there's a whole nother story behind it. And he says, well, why do I have to figure that out? They should express it to me. But as a devotee, we should understand, no, we need to make that effort to dig a little deeper and find out what's going on. So so thanks for raising that. Yeah, we have to, there's a practical response and there's a spiritual consciousness. Yeah. It's the Bhagavatam. So yeah, these, like sometimes when we're talking Bhagavatam, these things seem like very, very high and very, very saintly and very, very, but this is the point we have to get to. Like, it's simple points, but it takes some depth to apply it in your life. Like, the people causing us pain are simply the messengers of our karma. It's such a simple philosophical point. But to actually have that vision that this person is just a messenger of my own karma. I mean, if you would understand that simple point, you would look at everyone completely differently. You would have no malice towards anyone if we actually understood it. So it's easy to say, but to understand these things is, realize them is very, very, takes time, takes a lot of spiritual practice. Sorry, they are?
When you said messages about karma, you mean, are you indicating they're like reflections?
Messengers of our own karma means,
Reflecting something back to you.
if I'm on the M60 today and I speed, if I'm on the M60 today and I speed, I wasn't, but if I did, and I get flashed by a camera, and next week the postman comes and posts the speeding sign through the door, I'm not going to run out of the door and chase the postman like, why did you give me a fine? Why did you give me a fine? Because I know he's just delivering what I caused. So similarly, even the things that people do to us, ultimately they're just the agents. They're just the messengers bringing us karmic lessons, bringing us certain experience that we need to evolve and deeply think about and learn from. Very hard. Easy to say, but when it's someone doing that, directing that towards us, to have that vision, if we're able to have that vision, we'll grow very, very quickly. If we don't have that vision, then we'll simply play the blame game. Oh, that person, how could they do that? How could he be such a person? I'm a victim. And then you don't grow. Don't grow. Then what happens is, if you don't, that's the whole thing about karma, that if you don't learn the lessons, what's Krishna going to do? He's just going to send you the same situation again. And sometimes life feels like that, like a Groundhog Day. You're like, this has happened before. And then it happens again. This has happened before. The same situation, the same types of battles, the same obstacles, the same challenges again and again and again. Why? Because we're not learning from it. And to learn from it means we have to be deeply reflective in every situation to understand what is it that I'm supposed to be developing through this challenge in my life, or this time in my life.
Can you take that back to the story that you told in the Srimad Bhagavatam and Shiva and Daksha?
Daksha, yeah.
Daksha.
Daksha learned. The funny thing is, Daksha had all of that pride and all of that. And then finally he did get decapitated. And he received the head of a goat. And after that whole episode, then Daksha came back to Shiva with the head of a goat. And he came to the conclusion, he digested the whole thing, and he offered prayers, and he said, now I've been cleansed of that envy, that pride, and now I understand. So Daksha he did the internal work, and he finally realized it. So we have to do that. We have to digest life's experience and learn from it. Karma is educational. Krishna is teaching us at every step so many things. We have to learn the lessons. Should I finish? Yeah. Yeah. So if anyone would like, we have these books. So I just show you what it is. So Srimad Bhagavatam sometimes is a little bit intimidating for people because it's so long. It's many volumes. And it can feel like, how will I ever read so many books? So what we've done is, I guess hopefully in a kind of easy to understand way, we've narrated the whole story of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then we've gone through like different life lessons that you can learn from each episode of the Bhagavatam. So say for example, today I talked about Shiva. It's actually from this. So I'll just show you. So here it is. This is what I was speaking from today. And here you see tolerance, circumstance, acceptance, importance. So we go through each episode of the Bhagavatam, and then we try to kind of draw out different life lessons from it. So this is all 12 cantos of the Bhagavatam. And there's also like, to make it easier, there's like a family tree here, so you can follow along with all the characters like that. So so hopefully it may help to understand the Bhagavatam. So yeah, if anyone would like any copies, I guess Madhav Kumar you can get from him. We just asked for a donation of £10, just to cover the printing cost. So if you like, you can take. We have some copies here. Six. We have 5 boxes of 6, so 30 copies. 30 copies, yeah. So they're £10. So if somehow you don't have the Lakshmi today or whatever, you can take it and then I guess give later. That's also fine. Yeah, I think.
Sutapa Prabhu ki. Okay. So did you all like that class? So I've requested Prabhuji many times. Maybe you all can request Prabhuji as well. You delivered some lectures on this book, isn't it? in manner. 6 or 12. How many lessons you delivered? Six.
We did the first 6 cantos in 8 sessions of 3 hours.
Yeah. Would you like to have that here? Say it Haribol loudly. So Prabhuji is very, very busy, but we humbly request from the bottom of our heart, please kindly come and stay with us. Very, very nice lessons. Did you like all the lessons? Very practical? Yeah. Yes. So if you like it, please take a book. You're spending tons outside, 10 pounds donation is nothing. So please take a book and let us appreciate Prabhuji with 3 loud Haribols. Haribol! 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 So thank you so much, Sutapa Prabhu. Please kindly put us in your diary, Manchester especially. I'll take some time to speak to you, but we would be very grateful if you could spare some time here and spend some time with us. Would be good. Just a couple of announcements. Tomorrow morning there will be Mangal Aarti starting from 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. not 5 p.m. 5 a.m. Here, and there will be full Mangal Aarti. And devotees come here, they do, Aarti there and Tulsi Puja, then chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So we do Guru Puja, and then we will have Srimad Bhagavatam class. Would you be able to give class tomorrow by any chance between 8 and 9? You will be leaving by 8. Okay, so we'll have some class. It will be an interactive session because we had Gita Jayanti. So on the occasion of Gita Jayanti, we'll be focusing summary of Bhagavad Gita, but we will take the verses from Srimad Bhagavatam and go through the summary of entire Bhagavad Gita. It will be an interactive session. If you have not gone through Bhagavad Gita in the past, this is maybe a good idea just to come an hour and a half, sit here, and it will be an interactive session between 8 and 9:30, and at 9:30 there will be prasadam. So that's tomorrow. After that, devotees go for book distribution, and if you want to join, you're more than welcome. And on Sunday, we have a very special guest coming. His Grace Prabhu will be here. He's the GBC. So head of our UK, ISKCON. He'll be with us here, and he'll be giving a talk on share our good fortune. That is the title of his talk. It will be a wonderful, is again a wonderful speaker. So I request all of you to make a note of that, and if possible, please be with us. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Mahaprasade Govinde, Namo Brahmani Vaishnave, Svalpa Punya Vritam Rajan, Vishwashone Rajayate, Sarirara Vidyaja, Jarindriya Taheka, Jivifele Visheshagre, Taramade Jivati, Lobamoy Sudharmati, Pakijeta Katina Samsare, Krishna Baradamo, Kurivada Jivaja, Swaprasadana Dilabha, Sayanamritapao, Shri Radha Krishna Gunagao, Primedako Shri Chaitanya Nitai, Janamai Janitai, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Gokulanda Panchita Mahaprasada ki jai.